We'll be looking at how you can use Workload Identity Federation to authenticate to Databricks. Workload Identity Federation is an industry best practice for authenticating from automated workloads such as CI/CD pipelines because it allows for authenticating without the need for long-lived secrets such as personal access tokens or OAuth client secrets. With Workload Identity Federation, you authenticate Databricks using short-lived tokens issued and signed by your trusted workload environment, such as GitHub Actions. In this demo, we're going to look at what it looks like to migrate an existing GitHub action from using a long-lived secret, in this case, an OAuth client secret, to instead using short-lived tokens with Workload Identity Federation. This is a GitHub Action YAML configuration file. First, at the bottom, we can see the steps that the action executes. In this case, it sets up the environment, downloads the CLI, and then invokes it. For the demo, we're invoking the CLI to run a query over our Databricks audit logs to find all personal access tokens created without an expiration. You can see that we've also configured Databricks Unified Client Authentication Environment variables to authenticate the Databricks CLI to our workspace using OAuth. This job is currently authenticating to Databricks as a service principal using an OAuth client secret, which is a long-lived secret expiring after 30 days. We're going to migrate this GitHub action to instead use Workload Identity Federation, which eliminates the need for the long-lived secret. We just need to make a few changes to the configuration, as the Databricks CLI and SDKs make it really easy for you to use Workload Identity Federation to authenticate to Databricks. First, we need to update the Databricks CLI authentication environment variables to authenticate using GitHub support for OIDC Workload Identity Federation. We can also go ahead and remove the client secret since this is no longer needed to authenticate. Finally, we'll go ahead and add one more step to our action, which helps us to gather the configuration information we need to set up Databricks to accept tokens from GitHub Actions. This is a GitHub-provided utility called the Action OIDC Debugger, which we'll see prints the information we need to configure our action to authenticate to Databricks. So we'll go ahead and commit, and then we'll go ahead and run our action. And once it finishes, we actually expect this to fail because while we've changed the action to authenticate using Workload Identity Federation, we haven't actually updated Databricks to accept these tokens. So we can see that the action fails, indicating that there aren't any valid federation policies configured for our service principal. So we'll need to go ahead and configure those now. We can do that in the account console. I'll go ahead and bring that up. So here we're looking at the credentials and secrets section for our service principal. And we can see there are no federation policies configured, but there is an OAuth secret. So first we'll go ahead and just remove that OAuth secret since we no longer need it and we want to make sure no one else can use it. And then we'll go ahead and add a new federation policy to allow our action to authenticate to Databricks without using a secret. So we're going to specify GitHub Actions. Most things are auto-filled here. The only thing we need to provide, and we get that from the output from that debugger step that we added, is the subject of the GitHub Actions ID token. And so we can go ahead and expand the debug OIDC claims section from our failed run, and we can see that the output of that run gives us all the claims in the GitHub OIDC ID token. The claim that is important for our purposes is the subject claim, which identifies the action. So we'll go ahead and copy the subject value. We'll switch back and create our policy with that subject. And now with that change in place, we'll go ahead and rerun the GitHub action. And we'll see that this time, the action is expected to succeed and tell us all the cases where a user has created a personal access token that doesn't expire. So let's go ahead and see what that output looks like. So we can see here, this is the resulting output that this time, when our command executes, instead of generating an error that shows that no federation policy configured, the action completed successfully, executing the query, and generating the results. And in this case, we can see that we get a warning that there was a personal access token created by a user with this user ID on February 4th with the given token hash. So this is all that's required for you to configure your GitHub Actions to use Workload Identity Federation, which eliminates the need for using long-lived secrets when authenticating to Databricks. You can find more information in our documentation. Thank you.